Imagine blaming Cupid for ruining your marriage, and then he actually shows up and offers to send you back in time to stop your own love story from ever happening. That's exactly what happens to Carlos, a successful lawyer whose life is about to be turned upside down. This man is Carlos. One morning on his way to work, he's suddenly stopped by an eccentric man standing right in the middle of the road. Annoyed, Carlos asks what his problem is, and the stranger calmly says he has a lot of problems, and they're all because of Carlos. The man explains he was supposed to have the day off, but is working overtime specifically because of him. He then hands Carlos a cassette tape with 5 songs written on it. Before Carlos can ask what it means, the man vanishes. Still confused, Carlos arrives at his office and forces himself to focus on his job as a famous lawyer. Ironically, the case he's handling is his own divorce. Meanwhile, at home, his wife Elena, now a music producer and ex-band member, is busy dividing their belongings. They've been together a long time, but constant fighting has destroyed their marriage. Later that day, when Carlos comes home from work, he immediately hands her the divorce papers to sign. As she's reading the file, Elena gets irritated by the sound of Carlos loudly chewing on an ice cube. She snaps, saying she's fed up with his habits, and asks why he never changes, even after years of marriage. That tiny issue quickly explodes into another argument. After a while, Carlos goes to another room to cool off and notices Elena has put aside some band posters for him. Knowing how much she loves that band, he tells her she should keep them or just throw them away. Elena falls silent, then asks him to sit down for a real heart-to-heart talk. She admits she still doesn't understand why they're ending everything just because they argue so often, especially when they could choose to talk things through calmly instead. Carlos, however, insists there's no point trying to fix it because he's sure they'll just end up fighting again. He says it's better to end it all, and even blames Cupid for ever matching them. Hurt by his words, Elena finally signs the divorce papers. Suddenly, a radio in the room switches on by itself. Carlos walks over, pulls a cassette out of the radio to shut it off, and is stunned to realize the song playing is one of the titles written on the tape that stranger gave him that morning. Then the radio turns on again, and this time the strange man from the road appears right in front of them. He introduces himself as Cupid and says he's tired of being blamed for everyone's relationship problems. He reminds them that they chose to fall in love, and their bond was completely consensual. It was never his fault. Still, since Carlos and Elena seem to regret their marriage so much, Cupid offers them a chance. He'll send them back to the night they first met so they can convince their younger selves not to fall in love. He puts them in a car and transports them through time and space into the past. On the way, he tells them to focus on what truly matters, and then they finally arrive. They land right in the middle of a Valentine's night party at the house of Carlos's ex-girlfriend. Before disappearing, Cupid reminds them about the cassette he gave Carlos that morning. If their mission works, the 5 song titles on that tape will disappear one by one. Once every song is gone, their future will be changed forever. As soon as Cupid leaves, a girl bumps into Carlos and knocks him down. To their shock, the girl is the young version of Elena. Seeing her younger self, the present-day Elena faints on the spot. When she wakes up and spots her former bandmates nearby, she's stunned. Her old friends, on the other hand, are completely confused because she suddenly calls them all by name, even though in this timeline they've never met her. To avoid exposing who they really are, Carlos jumps in and lies, saying he and Elena are successful music producers interested in signing the band, but first they want to watch a live performance. The band believes him. Inside the party, Carlos gets distracted when he notices his younger self talking with his old friend Chicas. Soon, his past girlfriend Christina shows up. She's the daughter of a very rich man, and although they're together, it's obvious young Carlos doesn't truly like her. She basically forced him into the relationship. She tells him they must attend her grandmother's birthday party the next night so she can introduce him to her family. She even insists he wear a formal suit. Young Carlos refuses because he's already bought 2 tickets to a band concert and wants them to go instead. Christina refuses to attend the concert and threatens to break up with him if he doesn't come to the party. After she storms off, young Carlos feels relieved at the thought of finally being free of her. But future Carlos rushes in and starts praising Christina, telling his younger self not to waste such a beautiful and wealthy girl. His real goal is to keep young Carlos away from Elena, so he insists Christina is the perfect match, hoping this will stop the breakup and prevent any chance of romance with young Elena. Soon, the party really begins, and it's time for Elena's band to perform. Both present-day Elena and her younger self appear on stage and start playing. While the song goes on, young Elena and young Carlos lock eyes and feel an instant connection. Future Elena notices this and panics. To stop them from falling in love, she tries to interfere with the show, but instead causes her younger self to accidentally slam into the sound system and burn her hand. Young Elena rushes backstage to recover, and young Carlos follows her and helps treat the burn. While he's tending to her, a concert ticket falls out of his pocket. Young Elena is stunned and excited. It's for her favorite band, and she hasn't been able to get a ticket. They start talking, quickly bond, and grow close. Before parting, young Carlos secretly slips one of his tickets into her pocket. Watching all this from a distance, their older selves feel completely defeated. If things keep going this way, it's clear these two will fall in love all over again, making this entire trip pointless. They decide they have to do whatever it takes to stop their younger selves from meeting at the concert the next night. At that moment, Elena remembered something from her past and leads Carlos to the old van her band used to use. Inside, she reaches in and pulls out a gun. Carlos is shocked and asks why a band would keep a weapon in their van. Elena explains that because they often played shows late into the night, they kept it there for protection. Then she lays out her plan. They'll use the gun to threaten young Carlos into handing over the concert tickets so he can't go. Carlos agrees and they decide to go through with it. Before heading out, they check the magic cassette and see 3 song titles already erased, meaning their mission is working. With only 2 songs left, they feel confident their future is close to being rewritten. The next afternoon, they find young Carlos eating at a restaurant with chicas. Without wasting time, Elena walks up to them, points the gun, and demands their concert tickets. The 2 young men are stunned. They think they're being robbed for money and are even more confused when she only wants the tickets. Chicas offers her cash, but she refuses and insists on the tickets. Just as young Carlos is about to hand them over, Chicas tries to fight back, causing chaos in the restaurant. Seeing the situation spiral, future Carlos steps in and tells young Carlos the truth, that he's actually his future self. Young Carlos doesn't believe a word of it and tries to run, but Elena points the gun at him to keep him in place. Carlos begs his younger self to give up the ticket. Young Carlos pleads to keep it, saying this concert is the most important thing in his life because he's supposed to meet a woman he truly loves. He talks about how connected he feels to her soul and how he wants to make her happy for the rest of his life. Those words hit Elena hard. She leans in and whispers something only the 2 of them would know. Young Carlos freezes and asks how she could possibly know that. She says she knows because she's that soulmate, Elena from the future. She tells him that as sweet as his words are now, they will eventually lead to heartbreak and pain after marriage. If he really loves her, he should let her go so she can find happiness with someone else. Hearing this, young Carlos finally gives up his ticket. Before leaving, future Carlos asks for his younger self's car keys and promises to return them later. Later, while they're driving, Carlos asks Elena what she whispered that convinced his younger self to let go. Elena just laughs and says it's their little secret. Seeing her laugh so freely makes Carlos smile. He realizes it's been a long time since he's seen her this happy, and it reminds him of when they first dated. Convinced they've completed their mission, they get ready to say goodbye. But then the street around them starts to blur, and as the world shifts, they suddenly receive new memories of the life they've just created. When everything settles, they're horrified by how their lives have turned out. Elena now looks like a heavily tattooed rock singer. In this new timeline, she remembers a horrible boyfriend who dragged her into a miserable life and turned her into an alcoholic. Carlos, meanwhile, looks like a rich businessman with slicked back hair, now married to Christina. Her powerful, perfectionist family keeps him under constant pressure, and he secretly copes by chain smoking. Yes, their fate changed, but for the worse. Carlos realizes that his original life with Elena, the one he never appreciated, was actually the best life he could have had. He tries to apologize, but Elena is still in shock and runs away. Walking through the streets, she spots her younger self getting into a taxi headed for the concert. She realizes that even though they've changed the future, they're still stuck in the past. So she sneaks into her younger self's apartment to look for clues and finds a cassette with a song list identical to the one Cupid gave Carlos.
Seeing the titles, she remembers these were the songs she played constantly when she first fell in love with Carlos. Old feelings rush back, and she realizes just how much she misses him. Checking the magical cassette, she sees only one song title left. She breaks down in tears. She no longer wants the future to change. She wants to stay with Carlos. Desperate, she runs toward the concert venue. Meanwhile, Carlos is at a payphone, calling his mother while pretending to be a police officer who found his younger self's car. What starts as a formal report slowly turns into a deeply emotional conversation. Still posing as an officer, he opens up about his real life. He confesses his regret about leaving his wife and calls Elena the greatest love he's ever had, saying he destroyed something beautiful purely out of ego. His mother listens and tells him that if he finally understands his mistake, he should stop talking and go after his wife. If he stays silent, it just means his ego is still in control. Her words hit him hard. Wanting to make things right, he rushes to find Chicas and begs for help. When he reaches his friend's house, he explains everything about the future and their time travel mission. Chicas is skeptical at first, but believes him after Carlos reveals a secret only they could know. Carlos begs him to help get young Carlos to the concert so he can meet young Elena and fall in love like they were meant to. Fired up, Chicas feels like a hero saving his friend's future and agrees. He explains that young Carlos is currently at Christina's house and drives future Carlos there. At the same time, young Carlos is suffering through a tense dinner with Christina's rich family. He's so nervous he starts chewing ice cubes, and then, embarrassed, spits the ice back into his glass, making things even more awkward. Luckily, just as the tension peaks, future Carlos and Chicas arrive. Future Carlos asks Chicas to slip inside and give the concert ticket to young Carlos. Once inside, Chicas is chased by a dog, causing loud chaos that draws everyone's attention. After a rough struggle that leaves him a bit banged up, he manages to hand the ticket to young Carlos and tells him to go after his true love before it's too late. Moved by his friend's effort, young Carlos decides he doesn't care if Christina dumps him. He runs out of the party, meets his older self outside, and leaves his injured friend behind, who jokes he needs an ambulance because his whole body hurts. Outside the concert venue, future Elena feels hopeless. In this new timeline, if young Carlos doesn't make it to the show, her younger self will end up meeting the man who ruins her life. Just as her hope is fading, both versions of Carlos finally arrive. Before young Carlos goes in, his older self stops him for one last talk. He tells him never to waste time with Elena and to keep her happy for the rest of her life. Young Carlos promises he will, but when he reaches for his ticket, he realizes it's missing. Luckily, future Elena steps out from behind them holding the ticket that had fallen earlier. Later, as young Carlos and young Elena finally meet inside the concert and begin falling in love, their older selves wait outside and forgive each other for everything that went wrong. Because they've successfully restored the timeline, they're suddenly pulled back to their original future. Back in their own time, they wonder if it was all just a dream, until Elena notices a faint burn scar on her hand from the performance in the past. That mark proves everything really happened. Relieved, they hug each other tightly, finally understanding that their marriage is worth saving. Meanwhile, back in the past, an ambulance arrives to treat Chicas. As the nurse tends to his injuries, he proudly tells her the incredible story of how he fought to save his friend's future. He calls his wounds a badge of honor from protecting true love. The nurse is deeply moved and impressed by his bravery, and as they talk, a new spark of romance begins to grow between them.